Hello friends, in this tutorial we are going to learn some basic git commands. So if you have already taken my git tutorial on what is version control system and what is GitHub, you should already be familiar with some of the basic concept of version control system. In this tutorial we are going to create a new GitHub repository and we are going to add some code while learning the basic git commands. So to create a GitHub repository, first of all you need to go to github.com and you need to create an account. I already have an account, so I'm already logged in as a LearnP user into github.com. So I already have one repository called py. I'm going to create a new repository. I'm just going to call it test repository, and by default with a free account your repository need to be a public. If you want to make a private repo so that no one else can see it, then that option comes under a paid account. So I'm just going to make a public repository which anyone can see. I'm also going to initialize it with a readme file. Typically when you write any code, you always have a readme file explaining what that code is about. So I'm just going to add that. When I click on create repository button, it is creating an empty repository with a readme.md file. So if you open this file, it just test repo. If you want to edit it, you can edit it and say test repo for git commands demonstration, and if you commit, it will commit it. Okay, now github.com is a cloud storage. It is a remote server, so I already created a new repository. How do I sync that up to my local computer? For this you need to have a git bash installed. So if you type in git bash here, if you click on it, you will get this. Now I already have a tutorial on how to install git. So when you install basically a git, you get this git bash install. So you can open it up. Now I am in C code directory here. What I'm going to do is just clone this repository. Cloning the repository means copying repository from GitHub to your local computer. So for cloning, you go here, clone, and just copy this link. So if you click here, it's gonna copy this link, and then the first command that we are going to type is git clone, and then you will copy paste the repository URL. When you do that, it is just cloning it on your local computer. So when I do now ls, I will see that now I have this test directory here. So I will go into test directory. Let me just clear this out, and when I do ls, I got a readme file. So that's the only file we have. Okay, now the command that you will use often with git is git status. When you do git status, it is showing that you don't have any changes in your repository. It's totally empty and clean. Okay, now we are going to add our first Python file. So let's open pycharm editor here, and here I have C code test directory open. So I'm adding a new Python file, and we are going to make a program called hungry. So here in this program, you are basically asking if you are hungry or not, and you get some responses. It's just a simple fun program. So the first line I will write here is I am hungry. Okay, and usually when you write code, you create a new file, you write code, you execute it, you make sure it works okay. Yes, it is working okay. It is printing whatever it is supposed to print, and then you add your file to your version control system. So now I have my code ready. Let me go back to git bash here, and here I'm going to say git status. When I do git status, I get these two files, .idea, .hungry. .idea is a directory that is created by pycharm, so you can just ignore it. But here it says that git add file name to include what will be committed. So in git, whenever you are adding a new file, you need to add it to something called a staging area. Staging area is the area which contains the files that you are ready to commit. Commit means ready to push to your version control system. Okay, so I will say my second command is git add hungry.py. So when you run this command, what happens is, now if you run git status, this file now shows as green, which means it is in my staging area. Now whenever I run the next command called git commit, so git commit is now taking the files from staging area, which means these files. It will not take this file, this directory, and it will just commit it locally. Okay, so now git commit command takes -m as an option, and m means message. So I'm just saying first version of hungry code. Okay, so when you say git commit, now you have committed your change into your local version control system. Remember, when you run git commit command, you are not still pushing it to GitHub, which is your remote cloud. The code still resides on your local computer. So git status. Okay, so it is in local version control database. It is not still on a remote server. So if you run now, the next command that you want to learn is git log. Git log will show you the log of all your commit history. So when you say git log, you'll see first version of hungry code, and this is the commit ID, and these are the two initial commits. Okay, now let me clear the console. So when I run git status here, now I don't have anything in my staging area. Whatever changes I made, they are committed. Okay, so the first, just to revise the points, the first thing was git add, that adds files to staging area. Next thing is git commit, that commits your code to local version control database. Okay, now the third command is, now I'm ready to push my code to GitHub. So you just run git push. So git push will now push my code to my GitHub. So let me check what happened on GitHub. So this is my GitHub repo. I only see readme.md file. Now let me just refresh it. So once I refresh it, here I see the new file hungry.py. So if you open it, see whatever code I wrote, now it is on the cloud, so that now if I log in from some other machine or some remote place, I can still get this code back. I don't have to rely on my local computer to access this code. All right. So now here in the, if you click on this, it will show you the commit log. So our history is, we basically created the empty repository, then we added readme.md file, and then we added our first of Python file hungry.py. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some more changes into my Python file. Okay, so I will say my hungry flag is, are you hungry? So my program is now asking a question if you are hungry or not. And if you are hungry, I will say eat samosa. Samosa is a very delicious Indian food. It's fried, it's not healthy, but you can't resist to eat that because of its taste. Now, if you already ate samosa, if you're not hungry, then do your homework. Okay. Now I'm going to run this program just to make sure it works okay. Okay, when you say yes, it is saying eat samosa. When you say no, it is saying do your homework. All right, my code is now ready. So the next thing you do is you already have a file. So again, you will be running git status command a lot. So I'm seeing again hungry.py is modified, so I need to add it to my staging area. Okay, and when I do git status, it says it is in the staging area. Green means it is in the staging area. Now I will run git diff tool. So git diff tool is a command that allows you to see the difference between whatever code you have previously versus whatever code you have right now. Okay, so you have to say git diff tool head. We'll go over a concept of head later on, but just for the simplicity, you just run this command and it allows you to see the difference between your previous version of the file and the current version. So when I do this, it's gonna open this diff. So here previously I had, this is my previous file, this is my new file. So previously I had just one print statement, and now I have this whole code. Okay, so you just see the difference, you make sure things looks okay, and then what you do is you again do git push. Oh sorry, we missed git commit actually. So we'll say git commit added hungry prompt. So you write a meaningful message to mention what that change is about. Okay, so once you commit it, you are ready to push, and when you push it, it will go again upstream. So again, let me refresh. So I click on refresh button. Now instead of 3 commits, I have 4 commits. If I click here, it will show my latest commit. You know, it says committed 20 seconds ago. Okay, now if on the GitHub website, if I want to see the difference, you just click on this commit ID. And when you do that, it will show you the difference. See, red means you removed this line, green means you added this line. Okay, so that was a quick demonstration of our 3 basic commands: git add, git commit, git push. Now let me show you in a picture how that actually worked. So if you look at this picture here, what happened is locally on my computer I had this working copy which is my local code, and whenever I do git add, it moves that code into a thing called a staging area. Staging area means whenever you do git commit, whatever is in staging area will be committed, and whatever is not in the staging area will not be committed. So if you recall, we had a directory called .idea. I never added that using git add command. That's why it never got pushed to GitHub. Okay, so remember, you have to always do git add. So when you do git add, you are adding into a staging area. Next step is, once you are sure you are ready to commit, you issue git commit command. When you do that, it pushes those changes into a version database. Now this version database is present on local computer. This whole box is your local computer, so you are still not pushing it to remote. Okay, so that's the benefit of using Git. It is a distributed version control system, which means it allows you to track changes locally on your computer as well as on remote. Okay, so once you do git commit, it will create version 1. Then you will again make changes, do git add, git commit, it will create another version 2. Again make changes, do git add, git commit, version 3. So you will just keep on accumulating your changes in your local version database. Okay, and whenever you are ready to push the changes to remote GitHub repository, you will issue git push command, and once you do that, you have your code in the remote. Now once it is in the cloud, you don't need to rely on your local computer. You can access that code from any area of the world as long as you have internet connection. Okay, so the basic difference between Git and other version control systems such as SVN is that SVN doesn't have this particular box. In SVN, all you do is you make your changes and directly push to remote, versus having this allows you to track your changes locally. It's very powerful actually, and that's the reason why Git is very popular nowadays. All right, so that was all about these three basic commands. Now, the reason why I'm using command prompt is that command prompt allows you greater flexibility. There are many tools or many IDEs available from where you can push Git code. You can basically push code to Git and do whatever things we did here. You can do the similar things from that graphical user interface, but I personally like a command line interface because it is very, very powerful, very, very flexible as well. Okay, so in the beginning you may feel like you have to type a lot of command, but it's not that hard. So just stay patient and it should just work out. Okay, so always use command prompt. I highly recommend it. Okay, so that was all about Git's basic commands. We'll learn a few more commands in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.